What is the disadvantage? Only for deployment purpose or testing purpose you can use. You cannot use with large applications. And one more thing is we need a extra non-Java software should be installed on the client machine. So this driver is only recommended for light use. This is the architecture we discussed. So we need to install non-Java software is nothing but a ODBC driver. We have to install on the client machine. Now coming to the type 2 drivers. Type 2 drivers, what it does, it will convert the JDBC comments or system calls into DBMS specific native calls. So means database understandable forms it will convert. So these type drivers are implemented in native code and requires this drivers also requires some software should be installed on the client machine. So it has more performance compared to type 1 driver because it will directly interact with the database. So this is a diagram for type 1 driver. So what we need to install, we need to install some native database library at the client machine. With the support of those libraries, you can establish a connection with the database. Now coming to the type 3 drivers, as I mentioned that this type of drivers follows the 3-tier architecture. What do you mean by 3-tier architecture means between client and server, there should be a middleware is introduced. Middleware is it acts as a middleware is acts as an interface between client machine and server machines. And hence it is called 3-tier solution or 3-tier architecture. So this drivers also written in pure Java code. So this driver can change the DBMS without affecting the client. So without modifying the client side, what is a front end application, it will not affect the client end applications. And this type of driver is most flexible than type 1 and type 2. And this type 3 driver is suitable whenever your application is interacting with the multiple types of database, whether client server side, whether it's running a MySQL database or it is Oracle database or it may be DB2 database. So your application interacting with different types of database, then you have to go with type 3 driver. So as I mentioned that there is a middleware between that our Java application and the your database server side, right? Here JDBC driver, corresponding JDBC driver should be installed here. So middleware, what it does, it will receive the SQL commands from the Java application, then it will convert to the whatever methods, whatever the middleware understandable form, it will convert. So in middleware itself, it runs a type 1, type 2 driver. Some software is installed here. Middleware, what it does, it will again convert into a destination, that is server understandable forms. That system calls will be converted. That's why it's called 3-tier architecture. So this is first architecture, and the middle one is a second one, and this is a database server is a third one. So here database is a place where you can store the data, you can fetch the data. Next one is type 4 drivers. So another name for type driver is, you can call it as thin driver, and it's also called native protocol drivers. So what it will type 4 drivers having some specialty that it will communicate directly with the database. We here client machine no need to install any extra software or any non-Java software is no need to install. So because this type 4 drivers is purely written using Java code. So that's what is, no additional transformation or middleware layer is required. So middleware layer is required in the type 3 drivers, but in type 4 it is eliminated. That because the slow process, because type 3, if you use type 3 drivers, that performance will be, it was uh, less, because of there is a conversion is required. So middleware, what it does, it will receives the system calls from the, what is system calls or SQL commands from the front end application, then it has to convert into a middleware understandable form. Then again it will middleware, what it does, it will convert it, those JDBC system calls into a server understandable forms. So that middleware layer is removed in this type 4 drivers. So the high, performance will gradually increased. For example, MySQL connector is there. That is the example for type 4 driver. So that is purely written on the written using Java code. So this is the diagrams we saw last previous class. So there is no middle layer, and there is no drivers, specific drivers. No need to install here client machine. Directly you have to download the corresponding connector, corresponding whether you are using MySQL or whether you are using Oracle database. So each database vendor having their own drivers. You need to download from the jar file. Then you have to extract and you have to place that jar file in your MySQL database folder. And also, if you are running through a command prompt, then you can place the Java jar file in the JDK folder, right? Then you can set up the path. So in the environmental path, you have to give the where your that jar file is copied. That path you have to set in the environmental variable. And this points also we discussed. So when to use the type 4 drivers. So whenever your application accessing particular database, then you are go with type 4. If your application is accessing multiple types of database, then you have to go with type 3. If type 3 and type 4 is not available for your database, then you have to go with type 2 driver. And as I'm already told, that type 1 driver is typically used for development and testing purpose. It is a light use. You cannot use with complex applications or big like real-time applications, only for testing purpose. Type 3 drivers used whenever type 3 and type 4 driver is not available for your database, then only you can go with type 2 drivers. Which one is faster here compared to all 4 drivers? Which driver is faster with respect to performance? Yes, good. So type 4 driver is performance faster than remaining drivers, because there is no additional software is required, need to be installed on the client machine. These are the drivers name we saw here, different types of database vendors and their driver name and URL. So you need to install you have to mention the driver name whenever you are establishing the connection here. So this is a statement for establishing a connection. You have to specify you have to create a connection object. Then you have to call the get connection method of driver manager class. Then you have to pass the DB URL, whether you are using Oracle, which type of database you are using, corresponding URL available. That URL you have to mention here, and username password is optional. You can at the time of installation database, if you are giving password, that password you need to mention here. Are you getting right? So this is a statement for creating a statement object. First, you have to specify the statement interface name and the object name. Then you have to call the connection dot. This con means this is the object of connection interface. Then you have to call the create statement. This is a this statement is used to create the statement object. Once the statement object is created, you can execute the queries. So with the help of this statement object that we'll see in the program. So you see, observe here, this six steps we need to we used in this program. First statement is we imported the package, that is SQL package we are going to import here. And second statement is open the connection. As I mentioned that second step itself having two sub steps. First one is loading the driver. This is a driver name we need to mention in the for name method. So for name is a method, you have to pass the driver name as a as a parameter, and this is a default class. And then you have to call the get connection method of a driver manager class. So all this driver manager class is predefined in the SQL package. Then this is a URL, and this is a username, and this is a password. Then you have to create the statement object. This is my statement object. With this statement object, I can execute the query. Query is select name, price from the product table. So how many fields I'm going to select? Two fields, name and price from the product table. That SQL queries you can pass into the execute query method. This is execute query is a method. It will take a query as a parameter. Then the result, whatever the result you are getting, that rows result is stored in this result set object. Here result set is nothing but it's the interface. So here in order to what is say suppose there are 5 records, you know to print all the 5 records means you need to use looping statement. In the looping while loop you have to mention the next method. So you have to print all the 4 records, that you have to use rs.next. Initially one second. Assume that this is my table, right? It contains this is my product table, and this is name, and this is price, right? Assume that it contains 2 records. Okay. Initially, my cursor is pointing here, right? Whenever this statement comes, rs.next means this pointer is pointing to the first record in your table, right? Suppose keyboard, product name, price, 600. Right. This is my first record in my table. So what it does, the cursor is pointing initially in the top or in the first row of your table. Then once your rs.next occurs means it will pointing to the first row of your table. Then it will print the first data on the from the table. So what is the first column is name. So you have to use what is the data type here? It is a string. It's not a numeric, right? Then you have to use rs.get string. Right? And result is stored in this string variable, that is name. And then next one is rs.get float, means price is declared in the float. So float data type is there. That price is stored in this variable price. So this name and price contains the result that has to print here. And once one record is printed, then again it will check any another next row is there. Yes. Then rs.next, what it does, it will increment the pointer. Now pointer is pointing to the second row like this. Whenever it reaches the last row, then it will execution, the control will comes out of this loop. Then it will close the connection. That is statement close, then connection close. So fourth and fifth statement is executing the SQL queries and process the result. This is a executing query and process the result. So here, this is third step for creating the statement, and executing the query. This is fourth step, and fifth step is process the result. Then sixth step is close the connection. Are you getting right? Any doubts? Are you getting or not? Respond me. Or shall I repeat again? Understood, right? Steps, 6 steps. I'll show the example also. So how to execute from the command prompt. Which statement you are? One second. Lahari, which statement you have doubt? I written the steps here, na, at top corner on our right side. First step is you have to import the package. Then you have to open the connection. Open the connection statement having two substeps. First one is you have to load the driver. This is load the driver. Next is register the driver. In order to register the driver, you need to call the get connection method of driver manager class. The driver manager class is implemented in the default class. That class is that method is, we know that interface, in interface all the methods are abstract method. There is no implementation. So here get connection is a method which is specified in the connection interface, but the implementation is specified in the driver manager class. Right. Similarly, third step is you have to create the statement object. So simply you have to use connection object dot create statement. Once the statement object is created, with that object, I can execute the queries. This query you need to pass as a parameter, SQL query. So not only select, you can pass all the queries, whatever SQL queries are possible. Select star from, means all the column you want to print means you have to use star. You can update also. What are the update statement? You can also perform all update statements. You can add the column, all the SQL statement you can execute. Then this is for process the result, means you have to retrieve the data which is stored in the result set. So this, after executing query, the result is stored in the result set variable. That result set variable, with the help of that result set variable, I'm going to print the name and price of the particular table. Okay, some of them having network issues, they are not able to hear. Others, okay, no? One second. I'll show one more example. One second.